Sorry, my Wi-Fi is bad. Does anybody remember the reason why the energy produced in anaerobic respiration is lesser compared to aerobic respiration? What was the reason? Very good, Abdul Wadud. Very good, Aisha. Yes, Aisha?
Because there's less oxygen. There's no oxygen at all.
So does the amount of energy has to do with oxygen?
Yes.
Why?
Because our cells need oxygen, and there's no oxygen.
See, no, it's not. No, it doesn't have to do with the amount of oxygen. See, it is not the oxygen that is responsible for the energy. It is, remember, where's the energy coming from? The energy that gets released by respiration, where is it coming from? Yes, Amina?
Yes, miss, it is coming from the lactic acid made.
Energy is coming from lactic acid? Are you sure?
No, it's coming from glucose.
Okay, so yeah, so we have glucose both in aerobic and anaerobic. So then why is the energy less in anaerobic? Remember, I did discuss this in the first class of respiration. You know, the first biology class for respiration, I mentioned it. Who remembers? Yes, Sarah? Sorry. Yes, Sarah? I've unmuted you. Yes, okay.
Because in anaerobic respiration, there are two ATPs for per glucose, and in aerobic respiration, there are 38 ATP molecules formed for per glucose molecule.
So that's exactly my question.
Because of the ATP, less ATP, like.
Yeah.
So, but no, what is ATP? ATP is just a currency of energy, that's all. ATP is just a form of energy. It is a form that in which the energy can be used by our body. I mean, it is the form that our body can use for energy. That's what ATP is. But my question is, so you can, rephrase my question. So my question in terms of ATP is, why is it that you have only 2 ATP molecules per glucose being released in anaerobic and 38 ATP per glucose molecule in aerobic? So, okay. So ATP is just a form, but my question is, why is the energy less in anaerobic and why is the energy more in aerobic where the substance used is the same, glucose? Then why is the energy less? And so Aisha said that it's because of oxygen, but oxygen is just a way of releasing the energy. No, it's not the lack of oxygen. That's not the reason. Well, that partially may be the reason, but that's not the answer that I am looking for. Where does this energy come from? Yes, Ajwa?
Because in anaerobic respiration, there is incomplete breakdown of the glucose.
Very good. Yes. What do you mean
So
by
that's why
incomplete?
less energy is released.
What do you mean by incomplete? Yes, Ajwa, you are correct. But tell me, what do you mean by incomplete? Look at this. This is my first respiration class notes. This is my first respiration class note. Look at this glucose molecule, which has 6 carbon atoms. And this is ethanol. Okay, this and anaerobic respiration takes place in fungi and yeast. Okay, and so can you see this energy is coming from the breakdown of carbon-carbon atoms. Okay, remember we had exothermic and endothermic reaction. So this is a highly exothermic reaction. Okay, so the thing is, that not all the carbon bonds are broken. Not all the carbon has gone to form carbon dioxide and released energy. Some of them are still left behind. So yes, Ajwa, your answer is correct, that the glucose molecule did not break down completely. Did not break down completely means some carbon atoms are still bonded to each other. And so they are still trapping that energy. So there's still some energy is trapped within these bonds. Not all the carbon atoms, because remember, it is the bonds, these bonds, it is the formation of these bonds between carbon and oxygen and carbon dioxide that is responsible for release of such a lot of energy. That is why whenever carbon dioxide is produced, it's an exothermic reaction because humongous amounts of energy is released. So not all the carbon atoms have gone to make those bonds. And so some of the carbon atoms are still left behind. In case of fungi and yeast, they are still in ethanol. And in case of mussels, they're still trapped in lactic acid. Okay, and this is what a lactic acid looks like. So you can see that in lactic acid, you have 3 carbon atoms is still bonded to each other. So they still have energy trapped within them. Okay, they have not gone to make carbon dioxide, and it is the formation of carbon dioxide which is so highly exothermic. Okay, you have to remember this. Okay, you know, when I was a student, I had this way of studying, and I'm sharing this tip with you guys. What I would do is that I would, use shorthand, like abbreviations, and I would jot down whatever my teacher is saying. Provided the teacher is good, provided the teacher's lectures are worth noting down, of course, and he or she is giving you information which is not in your course book. When you come across information, I used to jot it down, because in my days we didn't have online meetings and we didn't have recorded classes. We didn't have all of this. We didn't have even YouTube or Google. So what I would do was I would jot down, and then when I would go home, I would teach myself. I would use that as my lecture material, and I would use the course book as well. And then I would be my teacher, and I would, like use a room, an empty room in my house, in my home, and I would teach myself. I would, like have imaginary students, and I would teach and I would explain them using the points given by my teacher as well as my book. So the next class, and I would do this, and I would make sure that I do this before I attend the next class. And so when I would attend the next class, I would know the points that the teacher gave, and I would know the points that are written in the book. And so whenever the teacher asked a question that was not written in the book, that was not discussed in the book, I would be one of the few knowing the answer. Why? The only reason was because I paid attention to her lecture. Okay. Now for you, things are very simple. Things have been, simplified. You have many other challenges, but then there are, good points as well. There are advantages of staying in this. Staying in this time is that, you don't have to do that. You don't have to jot down my points. You just concentrate on what is being taught. And all you have to do is listen to the recording maybe. Okay, if you come across any point that is not mentioned in the book, go ahead and write down on the book, like a shorthand. And I don't like those sticky notes. Those sticky notes hide hide what is written on the book. It hides those sticky notes hide the book, hide the page. And I don't recommend using sticky notes. Write short writings, on the spaces on the either side of the book. Use those spaces. Write down small notes. I used to do that. Okay, use that. So when you're reading, you will incorporate that information along with what you're reading. Okay, so the reason why, I did not like the fact that you guys don't know this. You don't know the reason why energy in anaerobic respiration is less than aerobic respiration. I mentioned this specifically. If you had paid attention, you would have known. But anyway, okay. So so once we know the aerobic and the anaerobic respiration, my next question would be, what is the point of anaerobic respiration? I mean, why do, especially we, us humans, why do we have anaerobic respiration? What's the point? The point is that sometimes oxygen is not available. Sometimes oxygen is not available as fast as is required, okay? And so we cannot have instant oxygen supply. We don't have instant oxygen supply all the time. So there should be one emergency mode, you know? So you can call anaerobic respiration as an emergency mode. So when you're exercising, when you're running, or you know, your muscles are contracting extremely fast, a lot of contraction going on, please mute yourself, a lot of contraction going on in the muscles, and each contraction requires energy in the form of ATP, right? Now, that is the reason why during exercise, the blood circulation increases and the respiratory rate increases. Now, why does the circulation increase? The circulation increases so that there is increased supply of oxygen, which is being brought by the red blood cells, right? It is the red blood cells that are bringing oxygen. So increased circulation would mean increased supply of oxygen to the muscles, right? And that is possible only when the heart starts pumping at a faster rate, okay? But then carbon dioxide is also being produced fast because respiration is going on fast, right? Because more energy is required, so more glucose is burning in oxygen to give carbon dioxide. Okay, allow the Rani. Okay. Okay, so so yeah, so you know, because you know, more energy is required, so more glucose will be burned using oxygen, producing carbon dioxide and energy, and so therefore there would be more carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide would require to be removed. So again, increased blood circulation would also help in removing that carbon dioxide away from the muscles, okay? And then the respiratory rate increases. Why? Because more oxygen is required for that increased respiration, increased burn down of glucose, and that increased oxygen supply is possible only when there is increased breathing, right? So not only the breathing rate increases, but the depth of each breath increases as well. Okay, so the depth for each breath increases as well. What? Okay, so so that is why in exercise the circulation increases, that is heart rate increases, and the breathing rate increases as well, right? So when we are exercising, we require energy faster than the blood can supply us, and faster than the respiratory rate can supply us. So for the initial period of exercise, the heart rate would increase, the respiratory rate would increase, but it has a limit. The heart rate can increase to a certain limit, and the respiratory rate also can increase to a certain limit, but we want more. Okay, when we are exercising, the muscles need more energy, so they keep asking for more energy, and so that additional energy is provided for an emergency state. The energy is provided by anaerobic respiration. So the body breaks down glucose quickly, you know, in a fast reaction, immediately into lactic acid and energy. This energy is less, but the body requires less energy. I mean, it's okay if it's less, I just need it, okay? We just need energy, because most of the energy has already been acquired by aerobic respiration due to the increase in heart rate and increase in respiratory rate, but now we need a little more, a little more. That little more, it's not that little, but yes, it is. So that energy is provided by anaerobic respiration, because this does not require oxygen. So this is not dependent upon the circulatory rate or the respiratory rate. So, you know, that's this process takes place during exercise within the muscles. Now, if this process takes place in the muscles during exercise, at the end of exercise, you will see increase in the concentration of lactic acid within the muscles. Okay. Have you ever felt, okay, can you keep your hands raised in the air for like 2 hours? No, right? What sensation will make you lower your hand? There will be pain. There will be pain, and there will be slight like tingling sensation, burning sensation. Try doing it. In 15 to 20 minutes, you will start feeling pain or burning sensation or cramp, and you would feel like lowering your hand down. That feeling, that sensation is due to the accumulation of lactic acid. Okay, that lactic acid is responsible for that burning sensation, that fatigue, that pain that we experience. Okay, so this lactic acid needs to be removed from the muscle. So when you lower your hand down, you can see that the blood circulation revives, and that pain sensation is relieved. Why? Because then now the blood is removing lactic acid. Okay, so by the end of exercise, lactic acid concentration first increases in the muscles, and then from the muscles, the lactic acid diffuses into the blood, and therefore you will see an increase in lactic acid concentration in the blood at the end of exercise. At the end of exercise, the lactic acid concentration in the blood is the highest. Okay, this is what lactic acid looks like. Okay, burns in oxygen to give carbon dioxide. Water we don't mention that much. Oh, sorry. Sorry. This is different. Sorry. So now when the lactic acid is removed from the muscle, where is it taken? Where is it taken? It is taken to the liver. In the liver, that lactic acid needs to burn down with oxygen and complete that process of respiration. Okay, so this is like an oxygen debt. You know, the books call it oxygen debt, meaning that the body needed energy real quick in an emergency situation, and it obtained without providing oxygen. You know, I'll provide the oxygen later. I'll provide the oxygen later. For now, just give me energy. Okay, now once you are done with your work, you've done your exercise, now the body says, pay off the oxygen now. Now give me the oxygen. Now, so therefore, even after exercise, your breathing rate and your heart rate does not drop down immediately, but it takes some time for the heart rate and the circulatory rate to drop down to normal. So can you please come here? Sit here. So it takes some time, and that time is because this lactic acid requires oxygen to break down into carbon dioxide and water. So this is the completion of that respiration, right? This is the completion of that respiration. So these carbon atoms were the ones that were left behind. They did not make carbon dioxide. So now they're completing that process. Now they're going ahead and they're forming carbon dioxide and water. So this is aerobic, and it requires oxygen. So this is like paying off your debt. This is the paying off of the oxygen debt. So when the lactic acid level comes down to normal, this process stops. Okay, and then that's when your heart rate normalizes, your respiratory rate normalizes, meaning lactic acid has come down to normal. So you have paid off your debt. So you're good. Okay, so remember, when we exercise, the heart rate increases, the respiratory rate increases, the breathing becomes deeper because you need more oxygen. These are all the points. Okay, and then during the peak exercise stage, when the respiratory rate and heart rate have reached their maximum that they can normally, then beyond that the muscles will start this process, which is anaerobic respiration. This will lead to increase in lactic acid concentration, first in the muscles and then in the blood. Okay, this is responsible for the pain sensation. Then this lactic acid is taken to the liver, and in the liver it will complete the aerobic respiration process of burning down the rest of the carbon atoms with oxygen into carbon dioxide. And when the lactic acid comes back to normal, your heart rate and your respiratory rate also come down to normal. Okay. Now if this lactic acid is not removed from the blood, of course, as you can see, this is an acid. Okay, this is an acid. Remember this group, this is called a carboxyl group. This represents organic acids. Okay, organic meaning hydrocarbon acids, acids which are hydrocarbon in nature. Okay, this is because this is an acid, this will lower the pH, as will carbon dioxide. That's why it is very important for this lactic acid to be converted into carbon dioxide, and then this carbon dioxide to be removed out of the body through respiration. Okay, this deoxygenated blood will go to the lungs, where in the lungs gaseous exchange will take place through the alveoli, and this carbon dioxide will be exhaled out. Okay, and if this process is hampered somewhere, that will be a problem. That will cause decrease in the pH of the blood, because this is an acid. Okay, acid will decrease the pH of the blood. Okay, so then this is how our brain controls our respiratory rate. So if the lactic acid accumulates in the blood, or carbon dioxide, there should be two here, or if carbon dioxide rises in the blood, that will lower down the pH. And remember, there's a site in brain, there's a place in brain which is a part of brain which is called breathing center, because it regulates our respiratory system. Therefore it is named as breathing center. It gets stimulated by the low pH of the blood. The low pH of blood will stimulate it. As a result, it will send impulses to the respiratory system. Which parts of the respiratory system? The diaphragm and the intercostal muscles, because they are the most important muscles of our respiratory system. They are the ones which are predominantly responsible for the inspiration, right? So when these muscles receive more impulses or stronger impulses from the brain, they contract more. When they contract more, the breathing rate increases. What do I mean by rate? More breaths per unit time. What does rate mean? More breaths per unit time. Deeper breathing, what does this mean? Greater volume of air being inspired per breath. Greater volume of air inspired per breath. And then when you have greater volume of air inspired, in turn, you have greater volume of air expired as well, exhaled as well. So this means rapid removal of carbon dioxide from the system. Rapid removal of carbon dioxide from the blood. And of course, that carbon dioxide came from lactic acid. And so more lactic acid would be converted into carbon dioxide. And so that is how the pH of the blood will be normalized. Okay, so the pH of the blood will come back. So this is an example of homeostasis, how the brain makes sure that the pH of the blood stays within the normal limits, right? Okay. Okay. For this, we need continued increased blood supply. So Okay, another point that I forgot to mention is that increased blood supply, increased heart rate, which takes place in response to exercise, causes increased blood supply to the liver from the muscles. And this blood had lactic acid, remember, and in the liver it needs to be converted into carbon dioxide and water, complete the aerobic respiration, pay back the debt. Okay, so this also is helped by increased circulation. This process is also helped by increased circulation, because increased circulation would mean that the blood is rapidly transported from the muscles to the liver, so that this oxygen debt can be paid off, right? Okay, so we understand why the heart rate and breathing rate stays up even after the exercise, right? Now the past paper questions, we will do at the end of chapter questions, and then we will do the past paper questions. Okay, with this, we have finished the book chapter, the chapter from the book. Now, can I have the book? I forgot to, can I have the book? So end of chapter question, there are 2 questions at the end here. Page 151. I hope you can read the question. Can you? Can you read the question? If not, then I'll need something to keep. Okay, can I get something to keep under the book? Okay, this is question number 5. Okay. A girl breathed into a machine. It's blur. If you have the book, I would recommend use the book. Use your own book. Is it better? Yes, Momina?
Teacher, it's blur.
It's blurred. There's nothing I can do right now. Do you have the book? Bring another book. Bring another book. I need charger. I need charger. Charger immediately. Right now. Okay. A girl breathed into a machine that recorded the volume of the air that she breathed in and out. The results were recorded as a graph of volume against time. The diagrams show results obtained when she was resting and when she was exercising. Okay, so this is the graph. I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry that the question is blurred. Okay, this is the time. So if you have the book, please look at your books. This is question number 5. My laptop is running out of charge. Okay, so this is time. The x-axis has time, okay, in seconds, and the y-axis has volume. Did you plug in? Okay, jazakallah khairan. Okay, so this is at rest, okay, before exercise, and this graph is during exercise. Okay, time per second. Time is in seconds. Okay, the unit for time is seconds, and this is volume. Okay, now question number A. Use the first graph to find how many breaths per minute the girl took while she was resting. Use the first graph to find how many breaths per minute the girl took while she was resting. Yes, Torhan?
60 breaths
Yes.
per minute.
How many? I cannot hear you.
60 breaths.
60?
60.
60 breaths per minute. Did you count?
Wait, I'll check again.
Yeah, check again. See, 1 minute has 60 seconds. So we have to count till here. 1 minute has 60 seconds, so we will count till here. This is what this is This is taking in, this is inspiration, this is expiration. Or you can call it inhalation and exhalation. Why? Because the volume is increasing and that increases during inspiration. And the volume is decreasing, so this is exhalation. This is inhalation and this is exhalation. So this is one breath. This is one breath. This is another breath. This is the third breath. So you have to count the number of breaths in 60 seconds. Okay, Yusra?
Miss 12 breaths per minute.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes. Yes, Yusra, you're correct. 12 breaths per minute, okay? Now, part B. Use the second graph to find how many breaths per minute the girl took while she was exercising. So again, 1 minute has 60 seconds, so we will count each breath. This one peak is one breath. One peak is one breath. So now count till here. Who's gonna answer? Hamza.
21.
21. Yes, good job. Yes. So you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay. Okay. Now part C. Use the first graph to find the volume of the first breath that she took while she was resting. Remember to include the unit in your answer. Use the first graph to find the volume of the first breath that she took while she was resting. So this is the volume. Okay, this is the resting state. This is the volume of the thoracic cavity or the chest in the resting state, and this is the volume at the end of inhalation. Using this value that they have given, one box represents 0.5 dm cube. Yes, Sarah?
0.5 dm cube.
Yeah, because a breath is just as tall as 0.5 dm cube. Okay. Then part D. Use the second graph to find the volume of the second breath that she took while she was exercising. So again, we have to do the same procedure with the second graph. You have to find the difference between the resting volume of the chest and at the end of inspiration. So this is one box, so this is 0.5. This is another box, so this is another 0.5, and 0.5 plus 0.5 makes 1 dm. And then we have 3 small boxes. So that makes how much? 1 point something?
1.15?
Yeah.
1.15, yeah.
Yes, something like that. Yes, 1.15 dm cube. Okay, don't forget the units. Okay, then question number part E. Explain how these changes in rate and depth of breathing help the girl to do the exercise. So can you see that the breathing rate increased, right? It was 12 here and 21 here. Okay, 12 and 21 were the breathing rates. And did you also see that the volume, each breathing volume changed? It was 0.5 and it doubled, more than doubled, right? So how is this helping the girl carry out the exercise? Yes, Aisha?
When she breathes more oxygen goes into her body, so more oxygen reaches her cells, so they work better.
Yeah, talk about muscle cells. Talk about muscle
So
cells. More
the
oxygen.
the muscle cells need more oxygen when they're exercising, and when she breathes, more oxygen goes into the muscle cells, so they work better. and help her exercise.
Yes. During exercise, the muscles are contracting more, and so more contraction requiring more energy. Yes, Yusra? Yes, Yusra?
Miss, I had to say the same, that when
No,
she's
it's okay.
exercising,
Yes, say it, it's okay. Say it.
that when the girl is exercising, the muscles will require a lot of energy.
Yes.
So there'll be a limit will come where the heart cannot supply as fast the oxygen before it was supplying. So in that case,
As fast as the muscles are requiring, okay, as fast as the demand, okay, by the muscles. And also mention that the muscles are contracting and they require energy. Don't just say that because she's exercising so she needs more energy. Don't just say that. Talk about, specific. Be specific in your answer. Don't talk about the girl, talk about the muscle cell. Say that the muscle cells are contracting and that process requires energy. Therefore, because the contraction is more stronger, more frequent contractions, they require more energy, and that energy will be supplied by aerobic respiration. Now, aerobic respiration requires oxygen, and that oxygen will be supplied first from the blood, and then blood will get it from the lungs. So for that, both the blood, the heart rate, as well as the respiratory rate need to increase. And in this particular question, you have to mention the breathing rate and the depth. So you will say that the depth and the breathing rate, both of them ensure that there is increased oxygen supply. Because as the depth increases of breathing, you have more inspired air, bringing in more oxygen molecules. So more red blood cells can get oxygenated, right? So both these factors increase the oxygenation of the red blood cells. Okay, then part F, describe the mechanism that brought about these changes in rate and depth of breathing in the girl's body. So you have to describe what process is responsible for increasing this breathing rate and the depth. How did this happen? Like first the rate was less, it was 12, and the depth was 0.5. And then all of a sudden during exercise, this happened. How? Sundas? What mechanism is responsible for this sudden change in rate and depth? Loudly.
The brain realized that the pH level of
the brain realized
that the blood pH level is low. So yeah.
This is not how you will write in exams. You will not say brain realized all of a sudden. Okay, you have to use scientific terms and you will say that, okay, let me hear from others, but be specific in your answer. Okay, as specific as you can. Yes, Aisha?
This is it for homeostasis.
I cannot hear you.
Homeostasis.
Homeostasis, that's it. Your one word answer. This is a 4-mark question. Look at this. This is a 4-mark question. Describe the mechanism that brought about these changes in rate and depth of breathing in the girl's body. And you will just write homeostasis. Okay. Yusra?
yes, miss.
Yes.
When the girl was exercising, her muscles required more energy. So over that time, the aerobic respirations will be happening in the cells of her muscles. There will be a limit come. The demand for more oxygen, the muscles will require more oxygen, more blood, but the heart could not pump as fast as it could. So anaerobic respiration would start to occur in the girl's muscles, which would
Okay, okay.
which would
Okay, Yusra, you have to talk about the brain receiving the the brain getting stimulated by low pH.
Oh, okay, miss, I understand. So
Yes.
when the pH of the blood will fall, the brain will sense this and will send the nerve to the impulse to the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles,
Very good. And so they
stimulating.
and so
Yeah,
they yes,
it will contract harder and more often,
yes, leading to complete the
uh,
answer.
leading to more expiration.
And that will
That will normalize the pH of the blood.
no you missed one point. You missed this. You missed this. Lactic acid going down, normalizing, carbon dioxide decreasing. You forgot this point. So you have to mention that when the respiratory rate increases, the carbon dioxide is removed from the blood, and lactic acid also is normalized, and so the pH gets normal. Okay, you have to mention that. You have to mention this in your answer. Okay, that's how you will gain 4 marks. You have to explain this whole process. Okay, that whole cycle that I made, you have to explain all of that. That's how you will get 4 marks. Otherwise you won't get 4 marks. Okay, this is question number 6. The graph shows how a student's, this is page number 152 in your biology book. The graph shows how a student's breathing rate changed during and after exercise. The y-axis is breaths per minute and x-axis is time in minutes. Okay, at this point exercise starts. The person starts exercising. Okay, and so the breathing rate is increasing. Okay, at rest the breathing rate was this, and then it increased all the way till 25, and then here exercise is stopped at 11th minute. Okay, and you can see there is a slight rise in the breathing rate. Can you see? Slight rise in breathing rate before it returns to its resting level. Okay. Part A, calculate the increase in the student's breathing rate from when he started to exercise to its maximum rate. So the maximum is 25. What is the resting? I think it's almost 12.5 or 13. So, okay, who will tell me? Yes, Sarah?
Or do we say that it's from 13 breaths per minute till 25 breaths per minute?
Yes. And so how will you calculate the increase?
We will subtract both of them.
Yeah, you will subtract 12.5 from 25.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever answer you get, that would be the increase. Okay. Okay. Part B. Okay, that's correct. Good job. Now calculate how long it took after he finished exercise for his breathing rate to return to normal. How long did it take after he finished exercise for his breathing rate to return to normal? So the exercise stopped here and the breathing rate reached normal here. So the breathing rate became normal at 16 minutes and the exercise stopped at 11. So how long did it take? Okay, Turhan.
5 minutes.
5 minutes, right, 5 minutes. It took 5 minutes. Okay, 16 minus 11 is 5. Part C, explain why his breathing rate did not return to normal immediately after exercise is stopped. Why didn't his breathing rate return to normal immediately after the exercises stopped? Yes, Turhan? Oh, sorry. Yes, Turhan?
Oxygen depth, because he had to breathe to take in oxygen to lower the lactic acid in his blood. It needed a lot of oxygen.
So why did it take so long?
Because a lot of lactic acid had built up
Okay.
during this time of exercise.
Okay.
And then when he stopped, the brain looked at the brain realized that the pH was too low, and started gave pulses towards the diaphragm to start breathing more, to do more contractions, increasing the amount of breaths per minute.
No, don't go in there. No. See, explain why his breathing rate did not return to normal immediately after exercises stopped. You have to, satisfy the question. Okay, you will say that because, yes, your first part of your answer is correct, and even the latter part was correct. Okay, so I would answer it this way, that because the lactic acid had accumulated in the blood, that in the form of oxygen debt. Okay, that was an oxygen debt. This lactic acid accumulation is actually an oxygen debt. So yes, you are correct when you say that this lactic acid will require time. First of all, it will be transported from the muscles to the liver, because this can only happen in the liver. The lactic acid is converted into carbon dioxide and water in the liver. Okay, so that would take time, and that would require increased heart rate, increased circulation, and then in the liver, the lactic acid would be converted into carbon dioxide and water, and all this process required this much time. All this process, because all they're asking, you don't have to talk about the brain here. The brain will not be in this answer. Why? Because all they're asking is that why did it take long for this breathing rate to be normalized? Well, yes, you can mention that, after the lactic acid has normalized, you can say that the pH of the blood is resumed. The normal pH of the blood has been achieved again, and so now the brain stops getting stimulated, and therefore the brain stops sending impulses to the intercostal muscles and the diaphragm, and so the respiratory rate drops down because those muscles don't contract as much anymore. So if you want to talk about the brain, then you talk in this way. You have to explain this answer. Why did it take 5 minutes for the breathing rate to come to normal? Okay. So part D, describe and explain how you would expect the student's heart rate to change during the 16-minute period shown on the graph. So this is showing breaths per minute. They're asking, if this was heart rate, then what would have been the shape of the graph? If this was heart rate instead of the breathing rate, then what would have been the shape of the graph? Yes? What do you think would be the shape of the graph if we had heart rate here? Yes? Yes, Sarah? Sarah? Yes, Turhan?
It will be almost the same,
Yes, and why?
because the heart rate also increases as the breathing rate increases because of the blood circulation in the whole body.
Yes. So yeah, heart rate would be the same as it would vary in the same way because they work hand in hand, they work parallel.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they work parallel because they're trying to achieve the same purpose. So yes, both of them, the shape of the graph would be the same. Okay, now the end of chapter questions are done. Okay, now we will do a few past paper questions. Let's see if I can show you the past paper questions. Okay, these I got from the math and physics tutor, physicsandmathtutor.com website. Okay, this question. An athlete takes part in a race. I hope you can read the question. Stop. An athlete takes part in a race. The graph shows her breathing rate before, during, and after the race. At which point does her body contain the greatest amount of lactic acid? Sarah, your hand is raised. Is it raised by mistake or you?
Ma'am, it's C. I wanted to answer.
Okay, Turhan, you tell me.
C.
C, okay, why?
Because you can see it's the peak, and it's the only part which is in the top.
It is the peak of what?
The peak, it's on of the it's the peak of the graph, and the peak is where the highest amount of lactic acid would be.
No, beta, this is not how you explain. This is the peak of the graph, but what is the graph showing? You will say this is the peak.
The amount of lactic acid. The amount of lactic acid.
No. You will say this is the peak of the breathing rate. Okay. Yeah, this is the peak of the breathing rate, and this is the end of the race. This is the end of the race. So remember that when you are when the exercise starts, in this case the exercise is race. When the exercise starts, the heart rate and the respiratory rate increase to meet the increased demands, but there is a limit. When that limit is achieved, it levels off. The breathing rate is then levels off at the maximum rate, and this is where the muscles are utilizing the oxygen debt. This is where the anaerobic respiration comes in, and this is where the lactic acid starts getting produced. And so you have lactic acid peak here, both in the muscles as well as the blood. And this is where, the increased rate is trying to pay off the debt. And so because of the increased rate, then you can see that the lactic acid must have gone down. And so, all those, the decreased impulses to the brain, decreased respiratory rate, and so that decreases the breathing rate. Okay, so yes, C is the answer. Okay, next question. I'm not doing all of the questions. Okay, you can go to the website yourself, attempt them. Okay, they are arranged topically. I'm only discussing the ones that are related to the topic that we have discussed today. Okay, an athlete runs a race. The graph shows how the concentration of lactic acid in his leg muscles changes. Okay, so this y-axis is the lactic acid concentration in arbitrary units, and the x-axis is time from start of race. You can see that the level of lactic acid increases and then decreases. Now the question is, for how long did the athlete run? Yes, Maruj.
We're gonna see that how much high is the peak is in the graph.
Okay.
So it's like the peak, like it started increasing from 2.
Okay.
The time 2 minutes, and then it started till 9 minutes. So we're gonna minus 9 minus 2.
Okay.
And whatever the answer is, that
9 minus 2 is what? You have to choose these options.
7 minutes.
See, for how long did the athlete run? No, Maruj, this is not how you will solve this question. Okay, Ahmad. Ahmad?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It will be 4 because it's the peak of the graph.
It is going to be 4 because it's the peak of the graph. So in all the questions, you will look at the peak. Beta, give me good reasoning. Give me good reasoning. So what are they asking? How long did the athlete run? So how can you find that out looking at the lactic acid concentration? When does the lactic acid concentration peak?
So when he was running.
Yeah, when the exercise was at its peak, the lactic acid concentration, yes. So
he stopped at 4 minutes.
How do you know he stopped at 4 minutes? How did you know that he stopped at 4 minutes?
Because the graph's coming down afterwards.
So why?
Because the liver is breaking the.
Because yes, okay, good job, Hala. Was that you? Yes, you are correct.
Because the liver is breaking up the lactic acid, so it's decreasing.
Yes, so you know the reason, I mean, how did we find out? Yes, you are right, Ahmad, that you know at 4 minutes he stopped exercising. And but how do we know from this graph? Because if he had continued exercising, the lactic acid would not have fallen down. It would have at least leveled off, you know, at the best. So the thing is that the lactic acid is coming down, is telling us that now the oxygen is paying off the debt. And that paying off the debt is taking place in the liver. That means the body got that chance. That means this exercise must have stopped here. And so the exercise started from the first minute. Why? Because that's when the lactic acid starts accumulating. Can you see the lactic acid is normally we don't get lactic acid. Normal in aerobic respiration, we don't get lactic acid. We get simple carbon dioxide and water from glucose. This is only during exercise that we get lactic acid. Okay, so it's 4 minutes. B is the correct answer. Okay, Maruj? Okay. Then question number 41. An athlete produces lactic acid in the leg muscles while running a race. After the race, he is seen to breathe faster and deeper. How does this help to remove the lactic acid? More carbon dioxide is used up, more energy is needed, more lactic acid is breathed out, more oxygen is breathed in. So you have to choose the option that satisfies the question. Okay, an athlete produces lactic acid in the leg muscles while running a race. After the race, he's seen to breathe faster and deeper. How does this help to remove the lactic acid? So basically, what does faster and deeper breathing do? Hamza.
To question answer D. More oxygen is breathed in. It helps in the removal of lactic acid in the liver.
Right, because it converts it into carbon dioxide and water. See, now, yes, D is the correct answer. You are right. Now, let's also discuss the wrong options. Now, more carbon dioxide is used up. Carbon dioxide is produced. It's not used up. So that's absolutely absurd. More energy is needed. But the question is asking, how does this help to remove the lactic acid? This is not making sense. More lactic acid is breathed out. We breathe out carbon dioxide. We don't breathe out lactic acid. So this is outright wrong. Okay? So the correct option is D. Okay? Okay, and then do we have any? So, okay, I had more questions, but we are out of time. So I can share in the group if you guys want, but you can go to the website yourself, and you know they are arranged topically. Go ahead and you know take their printouts and solve them. Okay, if there's any problem, then you can ask me. Is there any question? Is there any question that you guys want to ask? Then you can ask right now. Yes, Ajwa? Yes, Turhan? Is there any question?
No, I just forgot to lower my hand.
Okay. Okay, then. Then happy holidays and Eid Mubarak in advance. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.